Welcome to the Gooner Fanzine Arsenal Women podcast. We might be the only people connected to Arsenal who've come through the international break unscathed. It's been a little bit of a worrying one in terms of some of the injury news, so we're going to get into all that. The likes of Daphne Van Domselaar, Chloe Kelly, Alessia Russo, and Katie McCabe all returning home early. But one player's injury is another player's opportunity, is he? We've got to talk about Michelle Agyemang because what an impact last night. I know the eyes of most Arsenal fans are elsewhere. Some of them, like Chloe Kelly, as we found out, were double screening the games. But Agyemang, what a impact. What a start to her senior England career on debut, less than a minute in. Incredible touch and finish. And Leah Williamson with the assist.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was watching the Arsenal game, but I had my notifications on for the England one, and when I saw England goal and then the next one come up saying Agyemang with the goal, I just couldn't believe it. And then all the kind of Twitter notifications going crazy saying it was 41 seconds since she'd come
Yeah.
on, and I think only 22 seconds since the ball had been in play since she'd come on. So just absolutely amazing. And it was a really good goal as well. Took the touch well, quite a difficult sort of long ball from Leah Williamson, and then yeah, put it in the net. I thought it was a fantastic way to introduce herself on the international stage. And then she went on to say that she hopes she can help the team prepare for the Euros. So I think she's got her eyes set on being part of that squad a bit more permanently, which would be a brilliant thing to see for Arsenal fans, definitely.
Yeah, quite incredible in that I think it was Saturday, she helped the under-19s qualify for another Euros, scoring against Austria in a 5-1 win. And then the following day, Alessia Russo drops out of the camp due to an injury, picks up in the 5-0 win over Belgium. Now, my understanding is that the fact that Agyemang was already at St George's Park played quite an important role in the fact that there was so little time to sort of get a player together, call someone up who maybe wasn't on international duty. She was already playing football, had just scored. She was at St George's Park, and then that actually meant it was really practical for England to call her up. And yeah, taking the opportunity. I wasn't sure if she played, but then I saw sort of Nikita Paris was starting up front, and it does show you maybe the opportunity is there. And as Yamang, we know with Arsenal, and we know why everyone sort of clamouring to have her playing more for the first team next season. She is that point of difference. She is physically beyond her age, isn't she? And she's excellent in and around the box.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And I think because the under-19s had already qualified for their Euros, they kind of managed to have a great, I think it was a 10-0 win in the end
Yeah.
over Ukraine. But which they obviously didn't need her for. But yeah, really good timing that she just happened to be available. And I really hope we do see more of her next season. I have to say, I haven't been brilliant with the loan watch of her at Brighton, but I do see her name on the score sheet occasionally. And yeah, I think she's probably gained lots of experience playing more minutes at Brighton than she would have got at Arsenal this season. But obviously, she's got her professional contract, and hopefully, in the summer, she'll decide to stay at Arsenal. The club will decide to keep her, and she could be really useful as an impact sub for Arsenal next season, which is what we saw from her with England last night. Even though they didn't get the win in the end, it was it would have been the 3-1's a lot less of an attractive scoreline than 3-2. So definitely credit to her for making that difference, and I really, really do hope that she can do that for us next season because what a credit to have.
Yeah, it does seem like a no-brainer, to be honest, to keep her around with the squad. I think even this season she definitely needed to go on loan and have those opportunities. And, even if they did look at keeping her, we've talked about players like Rosa Kafaji maybe not getting those opportunities and how the managerial changes played a part. Probably Agyemang, would have been impacted by that and would have probably played less. We'll see what happens with Stina Blackstenius in the summer now that Alessia Russo is clearly Arsenal's first choice player. I think if Agyemang does stay, she probably isn't a regular starter yet. There's still a lot more to come. She's not a regular starter for Brighton. I think it's worth pointing that out. But the fact that even still not being a regular starter for Brighton, that England probably, it's an attributes thing, isn't it? They see what she brings to a side, they see the impact she can have off the bench, and trusted to come on. And I just think it's an incredible finish, the control and the finish. But what I like about it most is the fact that we're all going crazy saying what a goal, what an impact, an incredible moment. Her first thought was to sprint to the goal, pick the ball up, a little celebration, get the fans going, and run back to the halfway line. I think that's a really, really good sign of her maturity.
Yeah, it just shows that she's got those natural instincts as a forward player. And that yeah, she came straight on and did that. And she's probably trained with Leah Williamson quite a bit over the years, and probably knew that Leah was capable of putting that ball over to her if she did make that run. And that's a really great instinct to have, and it she pulled it off really well. So yeah, definitely. I really hope that she can kind of grow her football maturity even more than she already has, for her age, especially, and bring something different to the side. She's very physical, she's very fast, and I think she'd be brilliant in kind of those really tight games that we'll definitely have a lot more of next season, because they come they come more often each season when all these clubs are improving and bringing these players in and investing more in their women's sides. We're going to be looking at a lot more tight competitions, and if we're going to keep competing in Europe and things, we're going to need that squad depth, and I think she'd be a really great person to rely on in those moments.
Well, just gonna have a look at the Alessia Russo news, because of course the first news was her withdrawing from the squad. Amazing to see Agyemang called up. It probably wasn't what we expected at first, but Russo picking up the injury during that 5-0 win over Belgium, as I say, and she joins Chloe Kelly in withdrawing from international duty. Kelly returned to Arsenal on Friday for treatment on a foot injury sustained in England training. Sarina Wiegman said she was going to miss that game at Ashton Gate. After that game, described it as a little niggle, and then in the end, missing the remainder of the international break. I guess the good news is that Arsenal aren't straight back into action, is it? That they play Leicester on Tuesday night. It feels like, to be fair, it's a decent amount of time in terms of not having to rush these players back. And also, it's not the end of the world against Leicester if maybe Russo and Kelly aren't fit enough to start. You'd like to think Arsenal have the squad depth. I think what everyone's mind is on now is this game against Lyon, that first leg a few days later.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it will be kind of 3 weeks since Chloe Kelly was sent home from camp and since Leslie Russo's injury by the time we're playing Leon. I know Russo said on social media that she'll be back very soon, which has given a lot of Arsenal fans a bit of hope that she will be ready for that game. And as you said, Leicester, hopefully we can use other players that maybe haven't featured so much for Arsenal in the starting 11s this year. So that'll be good. I mean, I really hope that they'll both be fine for that Lyon game, just because of how impactful they were in that second leg Madrid game and how good they've been in every match they've played, and they link up really well together as well. So it'd be a real shame to lose one or both of them. But obviously we haven't really had any updates from Arsenal, and I don't think we will until that press conference before the Leicester game. But yeah, there'll be such great misses if they're not involved, and it's a real shame that they both picked up injuries on an international camp. And Alessia made it through probably the 80 minutes of that game against Belgium, was playing really well, and it was I think it was a foul that made her roll her ankle, it looked like, and then she was pictured on screen with some ice on her foot, but she looked pretty happy and cheerful. She didn't look like she was in too much pain, so hopefully it's just a little niggle. And the same with Kelly.
Yeah, I feel like players coming back due to precautions is never a bad thing. I'd much prefer that than them, being forced to stay with the squad. And yeah, returning to Arsenal, I think the worrying one probably is Daphne van Domselaar, and that's just me from what we've read so far without any further information. Andreas Jonker, the Netherlands coach, this is through Google Translate, even if some of Dutch seems very, very similar to English when you read it, and some of it was, and I won't try and pronounce it. But he says, at first I feared for the knee. That is not the case. It is the ankle. It was looked at thoroughly over the weekend. Arsenal have been investigating since Monday. We're waiting for that. So Van Domselaar's sort of leg got stuck in the turf in the closing stages of their win over Austria. She didn't play in the second game, in which Victoria Pelova got an assist. Jonker said there was an investigation, and playing on Tuesday was completely out of the question. Further investigation must follow, but that is up to Arsenal. I don't know yet what this means for the next international period. Now, the fact he's talking about the next international period, that seems a little bit more worrying than the other two injuries we've spoken about.
Yeah, definitely, because he's looking ahead to sort of after the end of this season, which is 5 or 6 weeks away. And that is really worrying if he's already sort of thinking about Euros prep and things without her. And she was definitely ruled out of that Tuesday game, while all the other players who'd been injured were as well. But yeah, it didn't look like a nice injury at all, did it? And I'm very glad it wasn't the knee, because that's seems to be the dreaded one at the moment. But it seems to have been a camp full of ankle and sort of lower leg problems for everyone. But I mean, I think there's been a lot of discourse online about how much of a miss Daphne is for the squad going into Lyon games, which she would be if she was to miss it. But I mean, Manu is one of the best number twos in Europe. She's still Austria's number one, and she is a good goalkeeper. We've played with her as a number one for a few seasons. She is capable. It's just I think people are slightly scarred by the Madrid away leg when we conceded two, but that there was a lot of external factors there as well. She can pull it out the bag if she needs to, I think, but obviously we have to wait and see what the clubs say. But I think it will be a real shame if Daphne can't play, and it's not looking good.
Yeah, it was hard for that first leg in Madrid because there was a lot of, when people realized Daphne was out, as you say, there is a lot of probably negative feeling towards Van Domselaar, and some of it probably a little unfair. I think goalkeeping such a difficult position, maybe to understand from the outside as well, and one that's very easy to blame. But the mistake that she made, as you say, it probably should save the second goal, as poor as the defending is as well. And obviously we can forget about that now because Arsenal are through. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on her. I think if she does come in, and it shows how well Van Domselaar's done. That there is such a clamour for her to be fit for these two games against Lyon, and you want your best side available. Um, Probably the star performer last night, Mariona Caldentey, a 7-1 win for Spain against Portugal. Portugal, who are not a bad side as well. So incredible result for Spain. 3 assists for Mariona, one low cross, one sort of simple through ball, and then a lovely pass in behind to pick out Alessia Putellas. She then scored a tap in as well. She is just in I don't want to say the form of her life because she's won everything at Barcelona and on the international stage, but I mean, if there's a time in the season you want Mariona to be on fire, it is now, and she seems to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've said it so many times, just how key she's been for us this season, and I'm really glad that she's had a positive international break because it just means she's firing on all cylinders, and hopefully we'll bring that back to the club, especially if we're missing a couple of people, which obviously we don't know yet. But yeah, she's just been one of my favourite players to watch this season. I think she's just incredibly good at football, and she just has such a good knowledge of the game and understanding of other players on the pitch. And I mean, that's shown by having 3 assists. She's able to pick out these players who are going to then go and score these goals. And she's just been playing so well. And I'm really glad she's on form going into this business end of the season because yeah, she's scored lots for us. She's assisted. She's just been so useful, and I'm excited to see her against Lyon because I think that will be a nice matchup. And Barcelona and Lyon have played each other lots of times, so she'll be familiar with that opposition, which will hopefully help other players on the team to go into it. She might be able to prepare people for their different kind of threats on the pitch. So yeah, I think she'll be a really real asset going into these next few games.
It's making me excited for the Euros already, actually. Middle of summer, thinking of all of these Arsenal players that we're going to be sort of covering, watching on from afar. Really looking forward to that. But England, that inconsistency. Continuing, a couple more players to go through. Katie McCabe shows how valuable she is to Ireland. I Google searched Katie McCabe to find out about her injury, and all of the preview pieces for Ireland v Greece were, can Ireland do it without Katie McCabe? It was, she is such a star for them, not just as the captain. They could as well. They did beat Greece in that second game. McCabe was suspended anyway, which probably all Arsenal fans probably never been more happy to see Katie McCabe suspended. And she was recovering from a calf strain anyway, so she returned to be back with Arsenal there. So again, a bit of a precaution, didn't have to play anyway. Hopefully not too worrying. As I say, Victoria Pelova making her return to Netherlands action, and Amanda Ilestedt for Sweden. So great for them to be back in their national team colours. And Rosa Kafaji playing for Sweden's under-23s probably says a bit about where she's at the moment. And to be fair, there are some very good players in that Sweden under-23 side who are also probably knocking on the door for the first team and playing a little bit more regularly. But maybe that's not a wake-up call for her because we know she hasn't been playing, but maybe it's a little bit of a frustrating reminder of where we're at with Rosa Kafaji, because when she came to Arsenal, she was playing for Sweden's senior side.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's probably a bit similar to what's happened with Jenna Neiswanger, who's missed out on a US call up this international break. And I think it just shows that these national teams, they are looking at who's playing at their clubs and who's playing regular minutes, and neither player have. But on Rosa, yeah, she's really not played a lot at all. And we spoke about it on last week's episode about what Renee said about her. But I think it's probably better that she has played with the under 23s for this break because she's been able to probably play more minutes than she would have done with the senior squad. She'll be wanting to play in the senior Euros this summer, I'd imagine. So I think she'll be probably trying to do everything she can to get into that squad in these last four WSL games for Arsenal and whatever's going to be left of the Champions League. But yeah, I mean, maybe she'll get more of a chance with some players who've potentially been injured who might not then feature against Leicester just to give maximum kind of rest time before the Lyon game if people are able to be back. And this might be a good opportunity for her to show, having just come off 2 weeks of getting some minutes for the under 23 Sweden team. So it could be something that Renee's watched and it might give her a bit more of a chance going into the next couple of weeks, but I'm not sure.
Just finally on England under 19. So Viv Leah with a brace, Layla Harbert and Katie Reid scored, but two more goals for Jessie Gale, who is a player I've spoken a lot about this season. I sort of keep a close eye on the academy and sort of get their results for every week. And she has scored pretty much every game for Watford, for Arsenal under 21s, and for England under 19s this season. Regards to a pro contract, which is always going to be the question, my understanding is that she's not expected to sign anywhere else. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to find some more concrete information, but it's sort of all signs are pointing towards her signing that pro deal. She turns 19 in August, so could sign one already. And I'd be very surprised if she doesn't put pen to paper this summer. But you know, if we get more concrete information on that, we'll bring it to you all. But another exciting academy talent coming through the pipeline as we talk about Michelle Agyemang too.
Yeah, it just seems to be that the Arsenal Academy have produced a lot of stars recently. I mean, obviously over the years as well, but there's been a lot of spotlight on these young Arsenal players in the last few weeks, men's and women's. But yes, just seeing them all perform so well for the international sides, whether that's under 19s or under 23s. A couple of people in the last couple of international camps have had call ups above their age groups. Including Michelle Agyemang coming to make her senior debut last night, which is fab. And I think it'll be really interesting to see when Jessie Gale hopefully signs a pro contract with Arsenal, because I think a lot of the rest of her kind of cohort have all done that and then gone out on loan or stayed with Arsenal. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether that's on the horizon for her, but it sounds like it is based on all your kind of research that you've been doing. So yeah, that will be really exciting. Just have another kind of accolade to Arsenal's academy.
Yeah, should add as well. Arsenal under 21's 2 games left in the season. They need 2 points to win the national division. I think they've got Charlton Athletic, and then I can't remember their final opponent. But they end the season at home, so they travel to Charlton Athletic, who haven't lost at home yet actually, and then they end the season at home the following week. So that will all be sealed up by the end of this month, and good luck to all of those involved. We could have an Arsenal side winning the league title. A couple more bits of news. As expected, Arsenal's trip to Aston Villa has been rearranged. So that clashes with the second leg against Lyon, so it's been rearranged for Wednesday, the 30th of April. Nice evening kickoff, Villa Park, one of my favourite grounds to go to. But a 6 p.m. kickoff. I think what plays a little part in terms of it's on Sky Sports is that the Champions League semi-finals are that night. And you can't believe this is, I shouldn't speak too soon, but if Arsenal and Villa go through, there's a chance that Arsenal men and Aston Villa men play each other in the Champions League right after full time of Arsenal women v Aston Villa, and that would be at the Emirates. So we'd literally finish up at Villa Park, and then we'd scramble to watch the men taking each other in the Champions League. So there is a chance that all happens on the same night, which would be something. But maybe a frustrating kickoff time for some of those fans who've got to come up to Birmingham after work.
Yeah, definitely. It's not too easy to get to, and 6 o'clock is a very early kickoff time. I don't think we've had one that early this season on a midweek game. And yeah, because considering London club, it's difficult if people are finishing work in London. They're going to have to leave early, or kind of really rush to get there. Probably miss the kickoff and things. So yeah, it's slightly strange. I mean, I can understand why they've done it from a scheduling perspective of that kind of Champions League men's matches, but I think a lot of people are saying it's just another example of the women's game being second to the men's, and why is it being sort of put on that day if it's going to have to be at that time. But I mean, it's the end of the season. The scheduling is always quite tricky at this point because there are different games to catch up on based on European football and different cups that are happening. So yeah, I mean, I think it will be an interesting match though, and hopefully lots of people will be able to get there. The travelling Gooners are so committed. I hope, that's probably not the hardest kickoff time they've had to make. So it'll definitely be there'll definitely be some travelling support, but it's just a shame.
Yeah, I don't think anything will be worse than that Everton away on a Friday night. And
Mm.
I think Manchester United away was a lunchtime kickoff as well, and that's never easy. Man City was a 12 p.m., which was just ridiculous as well. So yeah, there's not been a lot of consideration by the broadcasters, and probably a bit of it is thinking, look, we'll get families to the game, we can make it easier for them to go by it being at 6 o'clock, but. There just seems to be a bit of neglect by the people who set these kickoff times, and actually, there are these women's fans who want to go to every game. They want to go home and away. They're proper football supporters, and that they have these 9 to 5 jobs. They then have to sacrifice, things, taking time off work, going up and on trains, booking hotels, and there are those similarities like the men's games. It's not all about youngsters and families going. We have to keep these people in mind as well, and it's an impossible job. But some of the kickoff times have just been ridiculous and have been more inclined to great, get good TV figures, but we've got to remember about the people in the crowd as well. Could be a lot riding on that game for Villa too, potentially. We'll see how they're getting on in that relegation battle by then, and always plenty of former Arsenal players on the Villa side. As well. Izzy, quiet podcast this week. We will bring any injury or hopefully no injury news to you as we get it. You'll be at the pre-Leicester press conference next week. I'm on holiday, so you'll be back with Daisy next week, and you'll be at the Emirates for the Lyon game. So looking forward to that. It's going to come around quickly, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely really excited at the Emirates for Leicester and Lyon. So yeah, it'll be a good week. I'm off to the Emirates on Saturday for the men's game, and then 2 trips there for the women's matches next week. So probably should move into M5 at this point. But yeah, really looking forward to it, and hopefully it's going to be a successful week for the club and another successful week.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you are heading to the Emirates on the Sunday, then you'll want to keep an eye on our social media next week. We'll leave it there.